it's not just that it comes from, manuscripts and so forth. There's other historical references. It's concepts and antiquity that help us to know some of these things. See, the Bible's roots, its authority is in ancient divine encounters. From the patriarchs and the prophets' writings, predating many of the world's texts and preserved through oral and written tradition. See, these men didn't just pass it down through the telephone game, but many of them wrote it down. Notice what it says in Exodus 24:4. So Moses wrote down everything the Lord said to him. Deuteronomy 31:9-24 said, so Moses wrote in all the books of the law. And after Moses finished writing in these books the words of the law from the beginning to the end. Joshua 24:26. And Joshua recorded these things in the book of the law. Luke 1:1-3. Many have undertaken to draw up an account of these things that have been fulfilled among us, just as they were handed down to us through those from the first were witnesses and servants of the Lord. With this in mind, since I myself have carefully investigated everything from the beginning, I too decided to write an orderly account. Luke is saying, I wasn't there as an eyewitness, but I sat down with the eyewitnesses and I wrote down what they had to say. And then what would happen is scribes would get together and they would make sure that this word didn't die out. And they would carefully go through it and transcribe it on scripts and scrolls in the Old Testament on tablets. It's kind of crazy because back then they had tablets and scrolls and they wrote on them. Now, we've got tablets that we scroll on to read from.
We can write on them too.
But these were not just preserved by Christian writers. These were not just preserved through biblical teachers, but some of these things are found in the Egyptian hieroglyphics of caves. I'm not going to be able to bring that out today, but there'll be times that we go into the hieroglyphics. There's a guy by the name of Frank Turek who actually went to Egypt and found certain pieces of tablets that told about the Israelites in Egypt, that showed things about Moses and the Exodus and the slavery and how they moved through time. He gives a timeline on it and writes all this stuff down. It's very, very fascinating stuff to me, because people will say there's no proof of the Israelites in Egypt. But not only is it in the Bible, but it's proven through historical evidence that's etched in stone in the hieroglyphics of the pyramids and so forth. There's also a man by the name of Josephus who writes in the Antiquities of the Jews that there was a man named Jesus who not only lived but died and was seen walking and living about. And Josephus wasn't even a Christian. Josephus was a Jew that was just a historian that wrote about Jewish history and Roman history. There's about 11 different sources, and I'm not going to say their names at this point because I need to study them a little more to be able to say them right. I know one, Pliny the Younger was one. There's several others, and I can't pronounce their names, but 11 different documents in history that talk about Jesus of Nazareth. That proof this ain't just Bible teaching, this is historical. One man said, if I can know anything, and this was not a Christian believer, this was just a historian that didn't even believe in God. He said, but if I can believe anything, I know for a fact by historical records that Jesus Christ of Nazareth lived on this earth and he was crucified by Pontius Pilate under Roman rule. I know it for a fact. So I'm not here to just talk about Christian sources and biblical sources, but all kind of historical artifacts